They say family is family, even when they overstay their welcome, even when they forget basic decency. But what happens when the forgetting doesn't feel accidental at all? What happens when it feels like a quiet war, slow and constant, waged inside your own home? I learned the answer the hard way. My name is Marissa Greer, and until last summer, I used to think I was a patient woman. Reasonable. The kind who could tolerate a little irritation, a little clutter, the odd awkward guest. Life teaches you to let small things go, right? You keep the peace. You smile. You breathe. But then came Lila, my husband's niece, and with her, everything changed. It started the way these things usually do. A late-night phone call in early April. Peter, my husband, stood in the kitchen with his cell pressed to his ear, looking at me with that helpless look men get when they're about to make promises they shouldn't. "It's Lila," he mouthed. "She's crying. Something about needing to get away from school, bad friends, bad choices. She just needs a place to stay for a while. A reset." I said nothing. Not because I was cruel, but because I knew the moment I heard her name that peace was about to leave this house like a ghost through an open window. Lila arrived 2 days later, dragging 2 oversized pink suitcases behind her, dressed in ripped jeans and a designer hoodie far too expensive for someone who claimed to be broke. Her hair was a perfect Instagram wave. Her nails freshly done. She didn't hug me. She barely looked at me. Instead, she squealed, "Uncle Petey," throwing her arms around Peter like some little girl playing pretend, though she was 23, a grown woman who smelled faintly of coconut body spray and entitlement. I stood there in the hallway, holding the door open as cold air crept in, watching her flirt her way past hello. When she finally turned to me, her smile was thin, polite, forced. "Hi, Aunt Marissa. Thanks for letting me crash here. Just till I figure things out." She didn't wait for me to answer. She was already tugging her bags down the hall toward the guest room. I should have spoken up. Should have said we agreed on 2 weeks. No more. But I didn't. I bit my tongue, like I always do. The first few days were quiet enough. She slept late, left early. Always out meeting friends or figuring things out, whatever that meant. She barely ate dinner with us. When she did, she stared at her phone the entire time, thumb scrolling, mouth chewing mindlessly. "No thank you. No please. No, that was delicious, Aunt Marissa." Just her phone glowing in her face like a tiny sun. Peter didn't seem to notice. Or maybe he didn't want to. "She's just adjusting," he said one night after she left dirty dishes in the sink again. "Poor kid's been through a lot. Give her a break." "She's not a kid," I muttered. But he wasn't listening. By the second week, the cracks started to show. I'd find my expensive face cream in her bathroom. My shampoo, half gone. My silk robe, tossed on her bed. When I asked, gently, carefully, she waved her hand. "Oh, sorry, Andy. I figured you wouldn't mind. We're family, right?" Wink. Smile. Gone. Family. Funny word. I watched the way she touched Peter's arm when she asked for gas money. The way she pouted, lip out, voice soft. "Uncle Petey, I just need a little help, you know? I swear I'll pay you back when I get my new job. Promise." The way his wallet opened, over and over. And every time I stood there, invisible, wondering how this girl, this rude, careless, perfect-nailed girl, could make herself at home in my house so easily. But the real thing, the thing that turned quiet irritation into something darker, happened on a Sunday morning. I was making coffee, wearing my robe, hair messy, no makeup. Lila strolled in, fresh from the shower, humming, wearing my favorite perfume. The one Peter gave me on our anniversary. The one I'd hidden in the back of the cabinet. "Smells so good, Aunt Marissa," she said casually, flipping her damp hair. "I borrowed your Dior. Hope you don't mind. I've got a brunch date with friends. Thought I should smell nice." I felt something sharp and cold twist inside me. "I do mind," I said, finally. Voice low. "Steady. Careful." She smiled sweetly. "But Uncle Petey said to make myself at home." She shrugged. "You don't want me to feel unwelcome, do you?" The moment stretched between us, thin as glass. I knew then. This wasn't forgetfulness. It wasn't immaturity. Lila was playing a game. And no one, not Peter, not her parents, not life itself, had ever dared teach her the rules. But I would. I smiled back. Just as sweet, just as sharp. Of course, Lila, I said softly. Make yourself right at home. In that moment, I made my quiet, secret decision. If she wanted to forget her manners, I would make sure she remembered. The game had begun. It's strange, isn't it? How something so small can grow teeth. A borrowed scarf here. A missing bottle of wine there. A careless insult, tossed like crumbs on the floor. At first, you think you can sweep it all up. Tidy it away. Pretend it doesn't matter. But small cuts bleed long. Lila knew exactly what she was doing. I see that now. Or maybe I always knew. It started with the earrings. A delicate gold pair Peter gave me for our 5th anniversary. They sat on my nightstand every night, their soft gleam catching the morning light. One afternoon, they were gone. Have you seen my earrings? I asked over dinner. Lila was sitting across from me, twirling spaghetti on her fork, one AirPod in her ear. She looked up, all fake surprise. Earrings? No. But you probably misplaced them. I lose jewelry all the time. You're lucky they're not real diamonds. She laughed. Peter smiled weakly. I stared at her lobes. Small, golden hoops glinting under her hair. Mine. But I said nothing. Not yet. The next week, it was the scarf. My soft, green silk one from Florence, the trip Peter and I took years ago, when we still touched each other in the night and laughed over morning coffee. I found it, balled up and stained, in Lila's gym bag, smelling like cheap body spray. She'd taken it, worn it, tossed it aside like trash. When I held it up, she only grinned. Oh, that was yours? Oops. Guess I thought it was an old one you didn't wear anymore. My bad. My bad. Like it was nothing. I could feel it now, something bitter blooming in the space between us. A quiet rot under the floorboards. Peter still didn't see it, or chose not to. She's young, he said gently when I showed him the scarf. She's trying. Don't make her feel unwelcome, Marissa. You know how sensitive she is. You're just tired. Stressed. Stressed. That word hung in the air like a curse. I wasn't tired. I was watching. And the more I watched, the more I saw. Lila lounging on the couch with her feet on the coffee table, shoes on. Chomping gum like a teenager. Leaving smudged glasses in the sink, crusted plates on the counter. Tossing wet towels on the wood floors I scrubbed by hand. Using the good guest towels, the ones I'd bought for actual visitors, not for selfish, spoiled little girls playing house in someone else's life. She ate all the good snacks. My chocolate-covered almonds. The artisan crackers I bought for wine nights. The expensive bottle of Chardonnay I'd been saving for our anniversary gone. When I asked, she laughed. Oh my God, Auntie, you care about that cheap wine? I thought you'd be drinking something better by now. Peter says you guys used to throw the best dinner parties. Whatever happened to that? Whatever happened to that? I smiled. Tight. Careful. But inside? Inside, something shifted. Like a door unlocking in the dark. The final straw came one evening after dinner. Lila, fresh from her job hunting at the mall, which I suspected meant flirting at the Apple store, sat cross-legged on the rug, flipping through a magazine. Peter was in the den, paying bills. Uncle Petey used to have such hot girlfriends, Lila said, not looking up. Like, seriously, models. Did you know that? Back when he was younger. I bet they cooked better too. You should totally step it up, Aunt Marissa. He probably misses all that excitement. She smiled, like it was a joke. But it wasn't. I stared at her. My hands clenched around the dish towel. My chest tight. My breath shallow. And that's when I realized. This wasn't rudeness. This was war. A quiet war. Lila wasn't here to figure out her life. She wasn't here to start fresh. She was here to take. To slip into this house like smoke under the door. To make herself queen of a kingdom that was not hers. And no one was going to stop her. Except me. I started making notes that night. A quiet little list. A plan. She wanted to play games. I could play too. But my game would be quiet, patient, carefully measured. Like small cuts no one notices until you've bled out entirely.
Peter wouldn't see it.
Lila wouldn't suspect it. Not at first. I smiled into the dark kitchen that night, stirring my tea. Let her forget her manners. Soon, she'd remember. And this house would be mine again. Funny thing about revenge. It doesn't have to be loud. It can slip in through the cracks like dust, settle between cups of tea, folded laundry, quiet dinners. No screaming. No broken plates. No tantrums. Just patience. And patience was something I had plenty of. The first strike came on a Thursday morning. Lila had become obsessed with her protein shakes. Almond milk, chia seeds, gluten-free powder, her strange little rituals, like she was a fitness guru instead of a girl who spent most mornings in bed scrolling TikTok. She bragged constantly about her sensitive stomach, how she couldn't digest dairy anymore. One sip of real milk and she'd be miserable for days. So I switched her almond milk with whole.
Quietly. Carefully.
Just enough. The next day, she was pale, bloated, complaining of stomach cramps, running back and forth to the bathroom. Ugh, she groaned. I feel awful. Maybe the almond milk went bad. I only smiled over my tea. Could be. Or maybe your stomach's just sensitive, like you said. Peter offered to go buy fresh almond milk. I waved him off. I'll get it later, sweetheart. Poor Lila should rest. And rest she did. All day. Whining. Moaning. Snapping at her phone in frustration because she was too sick to go out with friends that night. The next strike came 2 days later. Lila had spent the week bragging about a dream internship she was applying for, some trendy design firm in downtown Columbus. She typed her cover letter on the family laptop, left it open like the world was her personal desk. When she wasn't looking, I opened the file, deleted it. Then I emptied the recycle bin.
Gone.
By the time she realized, the deadline had passed. She screamed in the kitchen that night, loud enough to wake the dead. My whole cover letter, gone. I saved it. I know I did. Who touched my file? Peter rushed in, concerned. Maybe the computer crashed? I swear I saved it. God, this house is cursed. Lila yelled, glaring at me, eyes burning. And Marissa, you didn't. I raised an eyebrow. Of course not. Why would I touch your things? She stood there, chest heaving, suspicion sharp in her eyes. But she couldn't say it.
Couldn't accuse me.
Because I'd smiled too sweetly. Because I was still wearing my apron, hands smelling of lemon dish soap, the perfect housewife. Strike 3 came later that weekend. Lila was glued to her phone, scrolling. She bragged about a new dating app she'd joined, how many men were messaging her, how easy they were to wrap around her finger. She even giggled about flirting with one of Peter's old work friends. So while she showered, I used her phone. She was careless. No password change. No caution. As if this house belonged to her, and everything in it. I downloaded a dating site she'd never heard of, one notorious for creeps, for older men who sent disturbing, desperate messages. I filled out the profile with photos from her own phone, the worst ones. The ones where she looked tired, sweaty, drunk. The kind no one chooses to post. By morning, her inbox was flooded. Creepy messages. Unwanted attention. Strange, disturbing offers. Lila shrieked when she opened her phone. What the hell? She gasped. What is this? Oh my God, they're messaging me. What is this site? Peter came running. I stood calmly at the sink, wiping a plate dry. Hacked probably, I said gently. These things happen. You really should be more careful with your passwords, Lila.
She stared at me, wild-eyed.
She knew, but she couldn't prove it. She was beginning to see what this house really was. Not hers. The real joy, the quiet triumph, came Friday. It was raining. The house smelled like fresh coffee and soft soap. I came home early from the store and heard music upstairs. Our bedroom. Curious, I crept up the stairs, barefoot on the carpet. And there she was, Lila, in my robe, wearing my perfume, on my bed, phone propped up, streaming live to her followers. "Hey guys," she giggled into the screen. "Look where I'm staying, my rich uncle's house. So much better than Aunt Marissa's sad vibe, right?
Ugh.
This room is like mine now." I stood in the doorway, watching.
Silent.
She glanced up, smirked, didn't even bother to stop the video. I felt no rage, no shock, just something cool, final, like the snap of a lock closing. She thought she'd won. She thought she was untouchable, but I only smiled. "Pack your things, Lila," I said softly. "You're leaving tomorrow." She laughed, actually laughed. "Uncle Petey will never kick me out. Face it, Auntie, you're just jealous. He likes me here more than you." I smiled wider and said nothing. That night I made a phone call.
Quiet. Calm.
Careful. A small, perfect revenge. One that would teach her the manners her parents and this world had failed to. One that would end this little war.
Permanently.
That night, after Lila smirked at me from my own bed, something in me settled, like the last piece of a quiet puzzle slipping perfectly into place. I stood in the kitchen after midnight, the soft hum of the fridge filling the silence. Peter was asleep upstairs, snoring faintly. Lila, blissfully unaware, was tucked into the guest room, the little nest she thought she'd stolen for herself. I dialed the number slowly. "Detective Holloway?" "Yes, this is Marissa Greer." I told him everything. The charges on our credit card I hadn't made. The designer shoes that appeared on our bill from a boutique downtown. The spa day booked under my name. The Uber rides and flower deliveries and strange purchases, things I never bought. I'd noticed it for weeks, but said nothing. Not until I was certain. He listened quietly. Took notes. Promised to check the footage at the boutique and the spa. Promised to be discreet. I hung up and slept well for the first time in months. The knock came 2 days later. Morning. Bright, sharp. Lila was still in pajamas, holding her phone, scrolling through more job listings she'd never apply for. When she opened the door, 2 police officers stood waiting. "Miss Lila Greer?" one asked. "We have a warrant for your arrest."
Fraud.
"Identity theft." Her mouth fell open.
What?
"Wait, what?" I stepped behind her, coffee cup in hand.
Calm. Steady.
"She's been using our cards," I said quietly to the officers. "Without permission." I filed the report. I have the statements, the emails, the boutique video footage. They confirmed her ID when she signed for the purchase. Peter came stumbling from the hallway, eyes wide with confusion. "What's going on?" The taller officer turned. "Sir, your niece has been making unauthorized charges on your joint credit account for several weeks. The evidence is solid. She'll need to come with us now." Lila whipped around to face me, panic blooming in her face. "You set me up," she hissed. "You crazy witch. You planned this." I smiled softly.
No, sweetheart.
"You did this all by yourself. You forgot your manners. You forgot whose house this is." But Uncle Petey," she turned, desperate, to Peter. "Tell them. I would never." But Peter was staring at her.
Silent.
His face pale, eyes dark, jaw clenched. "I checked the card, Lila," he said slowly. "I saw the charges. I called the spa. You signed my wife's name." His voice broke. Something inside him broke. "You used us. You lied to us." Her face crumpled. No, it was just little things. I was gonna pay it back." The officer cuffed her wrists. "Read her rights." Lila sobbed. Loud, ugly, panicked. The sound of a girl who had never, ever, been told no in her life. I stepped closer, whispered just for her to hear. "Next time, Lila, when someone welcomes you into their home, remember to say thank you." She looked up, wild-eyed, betrayed. But I felt nothing. No guilt. No regret. Just relief. The door shut behind them. Silence fell. Peter sank into a chair, buried his face in his hands. "I didn't see it," he muttered. I let her use us. I let her use me. I touched his shoulder. It's over now.
He reached for my hand.
Held it tightly. I'm sorry, Marissa. I said nothing. What mattered was this. The house was mine again. The quiet was mine.
My robe.
My perfume. My bed. My husband. And Lila? She'd have plenty of time to think about manners, in a place where no one cared how pretty you pouted or how sweetly you lied. Weeks passed. We changed the locks. Canceled the cards. Peter never spoke her name again. One afternoon, I found my gold earrings in her old makeup bag, hidden beneath a wad of receipts and stolen lipsticks. I polished them, put them on, looked in the mirror.
Perfect.
That night, Peter poured us the last glass of the anniversary Chardonnay, the bottle she hadn't stolen. We sat by the fire, warm, quiet, safe. You know, he said softly, I think this house feels lighter without her here. I smiled. I sipped. And in the flicker of the firelight, I thought of Lila, alone in a cell, wondering how it had all gone wrong. She'd learn. The hard way. Every girl who forgets her manners does. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Your support means everything. If this story touched you or made you think, please subscribe to our channel for more real, powerful stories.